Welcome to another Flashback review. And even though Christmas is over and New Year's have come and gone, I am still doing holiday movies, at least to the end of January. But this one has a more adult themes to it. A lot of the holiday films, with the exception of one, just one, pretty much have a holiday theme, but more of adult theme that goes along with it. And the one film I'm going to start off with is The War of the Roses, starring Kathleen Turner, uh, Danny DeVito, and Michael Douglas. I might as well say this now. This is a film that, honestly, I was young when I saw this film. One of my first R films that I've seen during the time of 1989. It was a film that, in all honesty, didn't really understand the main theme. And as I look at this film, as I watched this film as I got older, because I watched this film countless of times when I got older, I began to realize why it was called a black comedy. I put a parenthesis on black comedy for a reason, because as a comedy, I wasn't really laughing much. Basically, the gist of this movie is that you have two couples, Barbara and Oliver Rose. They met one day, fell in love, got married, have children. Oliver is successful in the law firm. He's doing great. He's doing wonderful. And however, as the years pass, Barbara, who was what many people considered a typical housewife, caring for the kids, caring for the house, was loving her husband, started to, lose that spark that she was attracted to when they first met. It was started with nitpicking. It started with issues about him, about his husband being conceited, being controlling, being pretty much manipulative in terms of him pretending to be friendly with certain people, not being real with the other people, and it has gotten to the point so much that they started arguing. And after pretty much the last straw happens, very last straw happens when Oliver thought he had a heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital. You see, Barbara reacting. She was like, "Oh my God, this is horrible," and she ran off. You're thinking she's going to see her husband in the hospital, but she went out shopping and bought shoes. And it was revealed that she wasn't really sad. That the thought of losing a husband could be a reality. She was actually happy because, in her opinion, she was free, and that's when she asked for divorce. And that's pretty much the gist of Act 1. Act 2 happened when the fighting, where the custody of the house started. Barbara felt that she was entitled to the house and everything in it. She put her life into the house. Oliver didn't really do much to the terms of decoration or anything else. And Oliver wasn't going to give up the house. He felt he was just as much of an entitlement to that house as anybody else. And this led pretty much to two things. It led to a pretty much ill-advised from one of their friends saying that they it's technically both their houses and they have to divide the houses. He has to live there, but in his half, and she lives in her half, and that just didn't work out, to the point where domestic violence have ensued. And man, oh man, did it ensue. We had, basically they was just straight trying to kill each other, more so on Barbara's side than on Oliver's side. From her playing monster trucks in his car, which she bought, to basically causing more injuries to his genitals and throwing him down the stairs. They were fighting, they were beating each other up, which left bruises. And in the end, they pretty much, to me, it basically, put it away, they basically destroyed each other in the end. That's basically what happened. They really destroyed each other in the end. What I felt about this film, when I saw this film earlier, when it was 1989, when it first came out. I was seeing a lot of films. And I saw this at an age where I thought violence like this was kind of funny. That was a mistake on my part. Keep in mind I was 13, 14 years old when I saw this film. And the reality is that this is the kind of comedy. This is why I don't consider it as funny it is, because in the first half I wasn't laughing at all. The first half, it was just there. You pretty much got set a character setup, character development. The second half, and this is where the call black comedy comes from. Most of the laughing scenes happen when they was beating each other up. That's where most of the laughing scenes has occurred. And although I had a few chuckles, and it was like painful chuckles, like and then you start laughing because of that, how he got messed up and how she got messed up as well. But it wasn't like a laugh where I thought it was laugh out loud hilarious. It was, wow, I can't believe they're actually doing this kind of laugh. And for some people, they may be fine with this kind of comedy. For others, especially those who dealt with domestic violence, this is not a laughing matter to them, and they will pretty much hate it. This is one of those movies, even to this day, it's still split down the middle. It has an okay rating in the Rotten Tomatoes. It's 81%, and surprisingly, I was surprised it actually was 81%. But it's a reason. For some, this works. For others, it don't. For me, there are some things that didn't work for me, but there are also some things that I actually enjoyed about the film. Let me go on to the things that didn't work for me. Obviously, the comedy. I didn't think the comedy was all that great. I didn't think it was that funny. And again, the stuff I did laugh, it was more on the fact is that like, ooh, that gotta hurt. The pacing. At the beginning, I didn't like the pacing too much, and that's because I didn't know what time period it was in. Like, when they first met, they met in the rain. She showed them some gymnastics. They are talking to each other. And then it immediately cuts to them making love. So you didn't know if they was already married. You didn't know if they just, this was a one-night thing. And then it cuts to them with their children. Then it cuts to them again. So a lot of cuts. It felt like they were just skipping through a lot of stuff that I felt they need to mention. So obviously, they felt it was just not important. They wanted to get more of the details, but I really felt there was still something missing on that. Other than that, I think that in general, I didn't just like it. Mostly my complaints has always been the first half, and how they was doing all that stuff. Once they got to one particular time frame and stayed there, I think it worked it much better. But on the first act, leading up to the second act, the first act I just didn't care for. Second act I actually did enjoy. I did like it, and that's largely because of what happened in the end. And most people will think that, well, they finally reconciled their differences, they finally got together, or they finally left in good terms. That was not the case, and the reason why is that Oliver, despite what was going on in this film, still loved his wife, and he never really understood why his wife just went cold on her, just didn't love her anymore, and he still didn't know why his wife was cold towards him. And this is something of a very classic tale of, I can't see my own flaws. Everybody else can, but I can't. I don't understand. I was a great husband. I love my kids. Why is she like this? It goes to show what can happen if you're not aware of your flaws, if you're not aware of what other people see in you. And she tried to give him hints about some of the stuff. He just didn't see it. He just didn't see himself as that kind of person. And that's something not just in movies. That's something that a lot of people deal with, even myself. We don't see our flaws unless somebody pointed it out to us. And then we say, that's not really me. That can't be me. That was Oliver's character. Not to say that Barbara was any angel in this film either. But for that particular reason, this is why he never saw why she didn't love her. And the fact is that when he told her that he loved her, and she said, I know. It was so cold, so non-emotional, that you pretty much knew right there, no matter what happened in this film, she was not going to get back to him. He was not going to, she will not love him. And in the end, that was proven. And this was this was probably one of those laughs that said, oh man, I laughed, but it was a sad kind of laugh. I know that's kind of crazy to sound, but believe me, if you see the ending, there's an ending where he places his hand on Barbara, and Barbara, in her last breath, I'm actually giving you pretty much the ending, smacks it away. and that's how that film pretty much ends. And I was like, as messed up as that was, it actually pretty much makes sense because it's letting you know, even in that situation, she still didn't love him anymore, and it was kind of like one of those things that, wow, what a way, what a way to end this crazy film. Um, Another thing I actually like, and this is kind of funny, was Danny DeVito's storytelling. Danny DeVito played a character that was telling the story of Barbara and Oliver Rose, and he did it in the very beginning. This what got me hooked into the film. In the very beginning, he was explaining how Barbara and Oliver Rose met, how they fell in love, and what stuff has happened in the film. But in the very beginning of the film, he has mentioned something that actually glued me on. He's talking to this guy who pretty much is asking for marital advice. He's not too sure he wants to get divorced or not. He never had a name, but it didn't really matter. Even though he's talking to the guy, it was very clear he was talking to the audience, and how he spoke, and the way he spoke. And I'll give you a pretty much good hint. He was mentioning about the cigarette case, which was very fascinating. But then he said, "I'm not going to start the clock yet. My fee is $100 and something an hour. For someone who charges $100 and something an hour, for somebody who's giving you something for free, you better listen." And that got me to listen because I wanted to know more about the story. I said, wow, he's paying all the, he actually charging this much money, and he's actually giving me free advice. I'm paying attention. Trust me, I may never get this kind of advice again. That was kind of a good plot device to draw people's attention. I don't know if people realize or not, but that was a very good hook in. Because it really, even though he was talking to this guy, who in the end he basically convinced to go work it out with your wife, see what the problems is between the both of you, and see if you can actually come to a good term, especially if you love her. For him doing that, that's actually a grab. All right, I got you. Now watch the film. And even though I had some issues with the beginning of the film, the way because of that, in my back of my memory, I said, let me just pay attention a little more. This may actually teach me something, and I'm actually happy that it did, because by my age, I probably would have walked out the film a long time ago. Story-wise, like the story, I thought the story was good. As a drama, surprisingly, I like this better, just for a drama perspective than a comedy perspective. There was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of issues happening in this movie, and whether you take the issues that is being presented or not, I actually, in my opinion, I actually got something out of this film. I didn't come out walking away empty-handed. To me, that's due to the fact you had two great performers, great actors in their prime. Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner. And that's launched because they have worked together before with two other films. The two other films being Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, and they came back. This is their last one, at least to my knowledge, The War of the Roses. And to me, this was Kathleen Turner's best performance because after this film, her career in terms of films slowly started to deteriorate to almost non-existent. I think the last film I saw of hers was Serial Mom. That was the very last film, and Douglas, his career is still going. So, but to me, my humble opinion, between these two, they worked at best. Their performance was very, very good. Their acting in terms of these two characters and how they interacted with each other was phenomenal. And I'm gonna be very fair. This is, to my opinion, Danny DeVito's best movie as a director. I really don't like Danny DeVito's other films. I'm just throwing it out there. But in terms of this one, I actually enjoyed this film. I think he did a very, very good job on this film. I know this film was nominated in Golden Globes for Best Musical Comedy, but to me, this was the movie that I actually did enjoy. This film, did it age well from 1989 to now? Honestly, it all does depends. To me, I would not recommend. I know Kathleen Zeta-Jones had mentioned this in an interview somewhere that she would like to do a remake with her husband. I don't think this would work well as a remake, only because of the fact of what it's trying to do. It's trying to poke fun at domestic violence. That's the best way I can tell you. There's no other way around it. If you've seen this film, that's exactly what it's doing. That's why it's considered to be a black comedy. And I'm not too sure if people are going to be comfortable seeing that, especially over the years when you hear horrible news about domestic violence, especially ending in deaths, horrible deaths. I don't think this film, for the most part, as a comedy, I don't think people will accept it. I think this film is good, but only because of the year it came out. If you're going to make a water film, they're going to have to water it down, and I don't think that's going to work as that. Even though I was not all for the comedy, I don't think watering down is going to make it any better either. There are certain films you just can't water down, and this is one of them. But other than that, if it all depends on your taste too. If you guys don't take this as literally as an insult towards battered women or any kind of domestic violence for that matter, you probably might enjoy it more than those who, especially those who were scarred with this issue of domestic violence, more than anybody else. But is it a good film? To me, yes, it's a good film. It's not a great film by any means. It's not a perfect film. But it's still a good film nonetheless. I did not regret seeing this movie. I didn't. I thought this film was pretty much the way I expected it. And you know what? We'll have to watch it again. The performances are still strong. The direction is still strong. And the story, for what it's worth, is still strong. Like I said, the comedy in the first half with everything jumping from one time period to another, it bothered me a little bit. It really did, and it still bothers me somewhat today. But other than that, once it gets through that, and once it settles down to one time period, that's when the film really starts moving forward more smoothly. And if you can get through that, then that's fine. So, on a scale of 1 to 4, this film, it gets a respectable 3 stars. It's a very, very respectable 3 stars. Mind you, this film is not for everybody. I mean, I'm keeping it real. It's not for everybody. If you're a person who gets offended real easily when it comes to the stuff that's going to be going on in this film, I would advise you to not watch it. If you're a person who doesn't mind seeing films like this, or I've seen films similar to that, then, you know, to each his own, you watch at your own risk. But to me, for that time period, it worked it fine. But I understand if other people just didn't like it. Well, that's just about all I got to say about this movie. If you've seen this film, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what you feel about this film. Or if you've seen a film similar to this, I'd like to know about it. But until then, it's J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.